a picture, like the paparazzi, the independent paparazzi, if you get a picture, like when Madonna first had her first baby, to get a picture of that was $50,000. To get a picture of, you know, although with Britney, and we're going to watch a biography about Britney, like the crotch shot of Britney, I'm sure that brought in some money. Although the problem was everybody got a shot of that one, you know. There was like 30 cameramen, and she just got out of the car and was like this. It's like, man, that was worse than Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct. and you almost think that she did that on purpose, you know. But yes, you're right. But I guarantee you that they probably get paid per whatever, maybe how many hits one of their stories gets or whatever it is. Even if it's a set salary, it can't be more than $100,000. Whereas Dan Rather is going to get paid $500,000, if not more.
I don't think TMZ, they don't like sell their pictures.
No, they just have a website and they advertise. So National Enquirer, like if you're an independent photographer, what you want to do is, seriously, some of these people climb up in the trees and wait and like shoot into celebrities' houses and stuff. Seriously, those types of pictures will get you a lot of money. Or if you can get a picture of like J-Lo with her stomach sticking out or something, you know, like she gained 20 pounds. And something that really draws that, then the National Enquirer is much more interesting. The National Enquirer, they don't give a damn for the most part about celebrities, do they? That is, I'm going to shoot flaming arrows at you. I have no interest in being your friend. Whereas TMZ, it's, yeah, we poke fun at you. We like to look at, like, they always get people coming off of an airplane. Didn't we talk about this? You always look real good after a 12-hour flight or even a 5-hour flight. Yeah, that's a real good look, right, when you're sleeping on the, although if you're a celebrity, you probably don't want those beds. But you're like sleeping on the side of the window and there's like an imprint on your face and you know, they go and get these. So they sort of rib at them and they get at them and they make fun of their relationships. But the people that run TMZ, they're sort of degenerates too. You see this guy, he says he's a lawyer or whatever. You know, I'm representing me in court. I can assure you of that. But you get the impression that the people who work at TMZ are kind of slime balls, don't you? Here's another way you can tell whether or not somebody's a good person. Would you leave your 6-year-old child with them for more than an hour? Would you let people at TMZ babysit your children? Well, that's your choice. When they get abused, don't complain to me, and they need years of therapy or something like that. I would say that's probably a good way to think about how you could pick a president. Would you leave your kids? Would you let Obama babysit your kids? Would you let Mitt Romney? I wouldn't let Newt Gingrich get anywhere near my kid. He just looks creepy to me. So, sorry, Newt. You do, dude. Sorry. You got that creep back. That's why he went from the front runner to nothing, like within 2 weeks or something like that. So, and he didn't have the right image. When you run for president, you got to be thin and athletic. You can't be bald. You can't be annoying. You can't point fingers at people. If you look at it, ever since television, we haven't had a bald or a fat president, have we? You know, and other than Nixon, most of them were somewhat good looking, except for Johnson, maybe. Anyway, but back to this here. So, companies like to do this because it's cheap journalism. It gets a lot of attention. The Anna Nicole Smith stuff costs nothing to CNN to do. If there's a story in Iran, they have to send Anderson Cooper over there, and he might get punched in the face because he's kind of an annoying person. And they don't like Americans. A lot of Iranians don't like Americans anyway. They're taught not. They're actually taught in school. I've seen some horrendous things things that are taught to Iranian school children. Things that you should see some of the things that were taught to Palestinian school children about Israeli and Jewish people, man. It's horrendous. It looks like stuff that the Nazis put out and stuff. Like just stereotypical stuff. If you've ever seen the Nazi propaganda, the Shylock character, the scheming, backstabbing Jew with the big nose and the curly hair, that type of horrendous type of stereotyping, vilification that took place. Hitler called him vermin. He made videos of them called the Eternal Jew, where he saw them spreading like a disease. That kind of sickness, and they teach these kids this kind of stuff. But anyway, so again, with journalism, it's better to do something that's right there. And if you're in Hollywood, the celebrities are everywhere. You can catch them. You take a snap a picture. You don't even really need real facts. You just spread rumor. But again. But there are different levels of this. Us Weekly tries to, they do scandal, but they also try and promote celebrities. But I'm going to bring in copies of the National Enquirer and the Star, and you'll see the difference in tone. And then we'll put TMZ's website up there too. That it's funny on Wikipedia if you can look up a celebrity obsession disorder. there is at least this belief, and Dr. Drew is discussing this, that Americans on the whole are obsessed with celebrities, whether you like them or not, and that they're impacting our behavior. And some people would roundly challenge that. I think this is a good place to sort of begin the conversation. Do you think that's occurring? And can you think of... Here's the other issue. I want you to think, are celebrities impacting either you or people you know, or who would they be impacting the most? And in a larger issue, do you think it's celebrity narcissism that's driving narcissism in society, or is it just narcissism in general? And can you think of any instances where someone has been narcissistic to you? Like acted in a narcissistic manner. Maybe you dated a narcissistic person. Maybe you're friends with one. Maybe your dad is a narcissist. So let's start with that. Do you really... First of all, are Americans obsessed with celebrities? Are you guys obsessed with celebrities? Do you wait in line for 9 hours? That's what... I didn't think about that. The iPad is a celebrity, isn't it? Isn't it? It's like Miley Cyrus. People wait 14 hours in line and camp outside the Apple store, even though you can buy it the next day without waiting in line. It's not like it's a premiere of a movie. It's not like a concert where it's like once. Okay? But regardless, ask yourself, so here's one instance of, here's one thing about public opinion. People always want to ascribe negative characteristics to other people, yet don't want to label themselves this way. Like when I ask people, is there high levels of materialism in American society? What do most people say? Yes. Are you a materialist? No. Oh, are there a lot of jerks out there? Yeah. Are you a jerk? No. A lot of narcissists out there? Yes. Are you one? No. Oh, there's a lot of people obsessed with celebrities? Are you one? No. You know, the whole world's full of idiots, but I couldn't find one to save my life. I don't understand this behavior. And it speaks to something very fundamental about human behavior, and especially about Americans. Americans don't like to think bad of themselves, regardless of how they behave. I don't think Donald Trump wakes up and goes, you know what, I was a real jerk yesterday. I'm just going to apologize to the whole world. You know, I don't think Paris Hilton feels shameful or guilty about anything she does. Okay? So it's very difficult, I think, for individuals to admit that. So, but give me some examples of celebrity obsession. Or just in general, what role do celebrities play in people's lives? I think that's a better way, because obsession is a kind of a loaded word. Yes?
Last year, friends of mine went to the city at 4 in the morning or something to get Katy Perry tickets, and I was like, this is absurd.
Did they want to meet her and try to meet her? Did they try to go backstage?
No, it was like for something free on TV, and they were like...
Did they get good seats? Because if you're going to go down there at 4 o'clock in the morning, you better be in the first 5 rows. Seriously.
I think so. I think it was like a TV audience type thing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I think I know what show it was too. I get these email invitations to go see like Alicia Keys and all this other stuff. I got one of them. They sent me an invitation to go see the NFL draft. I didn't go. Anyway, and I'm not going this year because the Raiders don't even have a first-round draft pick. Anyway. So, any other examples of celebrities, how they impact people's behavior or their attitudes?
Just at work, like with the older people I notice, like in the break room, if there's nothing to talk about, they'll just say something like, oh, did you see what happened on Survivor or whatever? So
it becomes a form of small talk, or what we might call... We call this cultural capital. And if you've ever worked at a business where your boss is obsessed with a sports team, or he plays golf, or he or she is into something or another, you'd better be into that. So you're almost forced by other people to deal with these things. And I think if we say, okay, Americans are certainly interested in celebrities, I think that's maybe a better way to put it. Whether you like them or not. And I bet the conversation goes, why do we keep talking about this? Or why does the media, does it ever break down to the media is just stupid, and why should we care about this stuff? But you're still talking about it. And it also becomes a way to connect with people. Because if you talk religion or politics, that starts to become a problem, doesn't it? Right. Or other aspects, right? Or sharing personal. Like the work world is a very kind of controlled professional environment, at least an attempt at that. All right, so let's move to the other question. Anybody ever experienced narcissistic people or people acting narcissistic towards them? And do you really think that that's... I think one thing Drew was saying is not that celebrities have invented narcissism, but because the way the media, you know, narcissists are interesting people. You'll see what this Britney Spears biography I'm going to show you. They're interesting because they're odd, just like learning about Charles Manson. Like, serial killers are interesting because they're weird, and they have a strange life, and they do strange things. But it doesn't mean that because I watch a documentary about a serial killer that I'm going to go out and do these types of things. So they didn't invent narcissism, they seem to have magnified it. So do you feel that, and you know, most of you have only been alive a couple decades here, do you feel that narcissism in general, among the people that you see out in public, in your private life, has that intensified over time, and what do you think is driving that? You can give me an example of a narcissistic person in your life if you want. And we're going to move to talk about this article after this. Yes?
I don't think it's increased over time. I've just, like, I've grown to notice it more as I've grown as a person myself.
Do you think American culture encourages narcissism in some ways?
Yeah, probably.
What institutions do you think encourage narcissism and for you to see yourself as a commodity to be promoted and put yourself above others?
The business world.
Right. Capitalism seems to intensify things like materialism and narcissism. Like, here's sort of a graph. We call this an inverted U curve. Let's take something like confidence, or certain aspects of narcissism in the business world with capitalism or competition. Maybe it's better. Let's just take competition. When you have too little competition, you have a lot less success in society. Go ask the former Soviet Union. One of the things that was occurring there is that since nobody had an incentive to work hard, people would go to work and do nothing. Okay? And if a doctor got paid the same as a janitor, what the hell would I want to be a doctor for? You start to see the problems? And then we get to this point where we have cooperation and competition in the same order. So this would be like quality of results, right? And if we have too much competition, it drives people crazy. And it makes people do steroids, or it makes people cheat, or it makes people backstab each other. It makes people nuts. And if you've ever been in a situation where there's been too much competition, what's that feel like? Anybody ever experienced this? People in sports have probably felt this. A lot of prep, yeah. It's stressful. It's insane. You know? And it seems to drive some of these characteristics. So we can't completely blame celebrities. But let me put it this way. If I have a bonfire and I throw gasoline on it, did the gasoline start the fire? But what did it do to the fire? Don't do this. Tristan? Yeah, it made it worse. So is that what's going on? Are celebrities just throwing gas on the fire? Is that what's going on? Just intensifying everybody's attitude? Or at the very minimum, one thing that is occurring, and I think that this is what is being said with the mirror effect in this is, that maybe what's really going on here is that celebrity behaviors legitimizes other people's behavior. Like maybe you're a recreational Coke user, which there's really no such thing. It's like what Richard Pryor said, you can't get addicted to Coke. My friend's been doing Coke for 10 years, he's not addicted. But if you're doing Coke, or you're thinking about doing drugs, or you drink, maybe you look at Charlie Sheen and go, man, at least I'm not like Charlie Sheen. And see, you can still succeed if you were drunk. I don't think so. He had his kids taken away from him, he lost his job. I mean, the only thing he's succeeding at is sounding like an idiot. Right? Or you look at Britney Spears. What happens is, because these people are so extreme, it makes your behavior seem okay if you're doing something wrong, right? Hey, I only drink on the weekend. Forgetting the fact that I wake up in a pool of vomit every day, over the weekend. The toilet is not a place where you should stick your head. In general. I don't know if they do it outside. Just if you do it, stand back. I mean, you get sometimes the water, anyway. But again, so one of the things that maybe is occurring is not that people are just looking at celebrities and going, hey, I want to act like a complete jackass too. Because here's the thing. If you're not a celebrity, can you act narcissistic all the time? What's going to happen to you? Whereas a celebrity can get away with this. What's going to happen to you if you act like a jerk all the time?
You're either going to go to jail or get beaten up.
Yeah, you're going to be ostracized. You're not going to have any friends. You're not going to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Your wife or husband's probably going to leave you. You're probably going to upset people to the point where they're going to beat the hell out of you or something. You can't go to a bar. Don't do this. If you go to a bar and act like a narcissist, they will beat the hell out of you. Somebody will beat the hell out of you. You start making fun of everybody in the play, because that's what narcissists are like. Now, some of them are charming and all that other stuff. But anyway, so let's talk a little bit. I want to introduce these theories a little bit, and then we're going to move to this example of it. So, Drew and Dr. Young are talking about this effect, which is primarily a psychological theory. Now, in that chapter, what did Drew, and all psychologists do this, and it's part of the problem. That's why social psychology is a more complete science. What do psychologists focus on the most when they look at somebody's problems?
Their childhood.
Right, they look primarily at their family. Now, we've discussed, after the age of 10 or 12, or especially 14, how much contact do people have with their parents and their family? I haven't visited my dad in 3 years. Maybe that's bad. I still talk to him a lot, you know. It's a long and involved story, trust me. And, you know, for example, once you get to a certain stage, friends and other people, your work colleagues, you spend a lot more time with. So, do psychologists take fully into account the impacts of non-family members and the larger culture on people's behavior? They don't. So that's a problem right there. So if we combine, though, if we take this other theory, these other two theories, which are sociological, and we combine them, we can not only explain that, yes, family does have an impact in your relationship with your mother and father and siblings and what values they teach you, but where do your family's values come from? Where are your parents taught? Where is the origin of these ideas that they teach you? Where does that come from ultimately?
Culture.
Yeah. Your parents didn't invent the American dream. They didn't invent capitalism. They didn't invent democracy. But don't they teach you all about that stuff? Or at least talk about it in an indirect manner? This is what it means to be American, son. This is what it means to be successful, daughter. Don't do this, don't do that. Right? Just whether it's direct teaching or commentary. And one of the things with social learning theory, this is more about learning by observation. We'll talk more about this in time. Social contagion theory, on the other hand, is related to this. A Harvard study was done, I believe it was in 2007, that showed that even at great distances, if somebody in somebody's primary social group, family or friends, primarily friends, lost weight or gained weight, everybody else in their social network had the same effect. So, what do you think the process is? If someone... Go ahead.
Well, that you see them doing something and it influences you.
Yeah, you think, hey, they did it, I'd like to do it. Maybe they even encourage you. So this is a good form of peer pressure, right? We always focus on these negative aspects of peer pressure, right? Getting people to smoke. But peer pressure, and plus, people don't want to say this, a little bit of vanity and envy involved, isn't there? Like, oh, she lost 10 pounds, or he lost 10 pounds, or this guy gained 5 pounds of muscle weight, or this person got into shape, right? And same with gaining weight, right? You think, wow, at least I don't look that bad. I'll maybe have a second donut. Okay? And they did this both for men and women. Now, they looked at, and they said that even if you weren't near the person, even just over the phone, that it would impact. So, let me read this here. Researchers at Harvard, and this is another study that suggested that one of the things that occurs is that social contagion has a limit. That gaining weight, you only get to a certain point and then people start to pull back. That there's a wall that you hit. Just like the media feedback loop, that doesn't go on interminably. Because if somebody was racist and all they watched was racist comments, then by the time they were 70, they would probably want to blow the entire world up, wouldn't they? And so it doesn't work that way. People reach a level of tolerance with something, like your attitude can only be so bad or good, right? I mean, my gosh, there's limits to how you can feel, you know. But anyway, so what they're saying here is that the obesity rate is probably going to rise to 42% before it starts to decline, based on social contagion. So it says here, researchers at Harvard University. I'd go after you, Bill Gates. Anyway, say America's obesity epidemic won't plateau until at least 42% of adults are obese, an estimate derived by applying mathematical modeling to 40 years of Framingham heart study data. Their work published this week in the journal PLOS Computational Biology runs counter to recent assertions by some experts that the obesity rate, which has been at 34% for the past 5 years, that's about 3 to 5, that's anywhere from 50% to 300% higher than most other countries on Earth. Like Japan, their obesity rate is like 5 or 6%. And you can tell why. They don't. It actually was at 1% at one point, so it's actually gone up 500%. And I'll tell you one word: McDonald's. I mean, seriously. Anyway, but the Japanese people eat fish and seaweed and rice and other kinds of stuff like that. They're probably more likely to die of lead or mercury poisoning than obesity. Anyway, and they drink green tea as well. By some experts, obesity rate has been at 34% for the past 5 years, may have peaked. An additional 34% of American adults are overweight but not obese, according to the federal government Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The Harvard scientists say that their modeling shows that the proliferation of obesity among American adults in recent decades owes in large part to the accelerating spread via social networks. So even if you don't watch stuff on celebrities, and this is why I put this here, this mirror effect. Here's the general public that's impacted, the whole general public. Here's the part that's impacted by celebrity, and the mirror effect says it spreads out. That even if you don't watch TMZ, even if you don't care what's in the National Enquirer, even if you don't have a favorite celebrity, or wait in line for a Hannah Montana concert for some god-awful reason. I do want to say one thing about Hannah Montana. At least she doesn't do vocal effects and lip-sync in concert, because I've seen her live, I've seen videos of her live, and it sounds horrendous. You can only sound that bad when you're really singing. Okay? But then even if you try to ignore celebrities, can you really ignore celebrities? It comes creeping in, doesn't it? Like, I assure you, and I hope this doesn't happen, if Harrison Ford dies, isn't everybody in this room going to know about it, even if you saw a news story or not? Does everybody know Harrison Ford? I hope, God. I don't know if it was somebody in this class, but I had mentioned the movie Indiana Jones, the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and someone goes, no, it wasn't, it was at St. Joseph's. And they were like, I haven't seen that movie. I was like, what? That's like not watching The Wizard of Oz or something like that. Anyway, maybe not that level. I mean, that's a movie from 1939 that people still love and watch. Even more than Gone with the Wind. Our analysis suggests that while people have gotten better at gaining weight since 1971, that's probably not a compliment, they haven't gotten any better at losing weight, says lead author Allison L. Hill, a graduate student at Harvard's Program for Evolutionary Dynamics Biophysics program and at the Harvard-MIT Division of Health Science and Technology. Specifically, the rate of weight gain due to social transmission has grown quite rapidly. The projections by Hill and colleagues are a best-case scenario, meaning that America's obesity rate could rise above 42% of adults. I mean, we don't already have a healthcare crisis in this country, right? Yeah, I know. We have already spent, the fiscal year ends in June 30th, we have already spent $850 billion. The government, the federal government alone, has spent $50 billion on Medicare and Medicaid alone. It's nearly 25% of the budget. And what do people get treated for? Heart disease, colon cancer, stomach cancer. What do you think that comes from? Eating right and exercising? Although there have been people who jogged all their life and then dropped dead at 47 from a heart attack, and I just don't understand that. It makes me think there's something wrong with jogging. Maybe they suck in carbon monoxide or something. I would question people who, when there's parks everywhere, why people jog on the side of the road. You're risking your life. I mean, if you're under the age of 45, you're most likely to die from a preventable accident. So there you are risking the number one cause of death. You are tempting fate. And motorists love to slow down for bike riders and runners, right? Yeah, I love it when you stop traffic for 5 miles. That makes me feel real good. That makes me want to be real nice when I pass you, right? But on top of that, you're sucking in fumes and all kinds of crap. So anyway, so it doesn't necessarily mean that obesity automatically leads to heart disease, but it's certainly connected, and certainly connected to colon cancer and other things. Anyway, one silver lining is that their model suggests the U.S. population may not reach this level for another 40 years, making the future rate of increase much more gradual than over the past 40 years. Only 14% of Framingham Heart Study participants were obese in 1971. Along with co-authors David G. Rand, Martin Nowak, I think it's pronounced Novak, and Nicholas A. Christakis, Hill broke down the spread of obesity into 3 components. So here's sort of the theory, and I'll send you this link. theory of social contagion and obesity. And again, I'm not trying to focus on this class isn't about obesity. But what I'm trying to say is that narcissism spreads like this too. And unlike obesity, where you know when that you're gaining weight, you may not realize that you're acting narcissistic. Although you probably, again, you will get blowback from the general public in your social network if you're acting narcissistically, unless they are narcissists too. Okay, if you saw in that chapter, narcissists have problems maintaining what?
Relationships.
Yeah, of every kind. Narcissists also are the type of people that they sort of have. If you get into a relationship with a narcissist, they're very charming, and it's like a honeymoon, and you marry them, and you're the center of attention because they put you on a pedestal, because by doing that, you're putting them on a pedestal. And then, after the shine wears off the apple, they're like, see ya. There's a book by Gene Twenge and Keith Campbell, and they wrote that they had an example they used where this guy had married this woman, and he was a narcissist, but she didn't realize it at first, and she got cancer and had chemotherapy, and he was complaining that her chemo treatments were ruining his social life. And so he divorced her.
Wow, that's shallow.
It's like John Edwards cheating on his wife so she's dying in the hospital. And then she made sure, John Edwards' wife made sure that he didn't get a dime of her insurance policy. Not that he needs any money. That's cold-blooded, isn't it? To most people, that's very disturbing behavior. Right? But that's the type of stuff that narcissists will do. The rate at which obesity has spread through social networks via transfer from person to person, the rate of non-social transmission of obesity, such as through easier access to unhealthy foods or increasingly sedentary lifestyles. So this also is an element here, that people are tempted by the wrong choices. Let's face it, there's a fast food restaurant on every corner. I mean, again, when you think, oh, maybe I'll just drink some coffee at Starbucks. Yeah, put some whole milk in there, and some caramel and stuff, and some whipped cream, and whatever else junk. I mean, some of these lattes have like 1,200 calories or something like that, and 50 grams of fat. I mean, seriously, some of this stuff's out of control. So, but anyway, the rate of recovery from obesity, defined as weight loss sufficient to push body mass index back below 30. We find that while non-social transmission of obesity remains the most important component in its spread, social transmission of obesity has grown much faster in the last 4 decades. Part of that might have to do with what? The rise in what type of technology? This is based on communication. What do you guys spend most of your time doing when you're on the internet? Yeah, it's the social networking sites. That is accelerating this process. And they're also suggesting, Drew is also suggesting that it's accelerating what?
Narcissism.
Yeah, the transmission of narcissism. Remember the broadcasting yourself? Not only among celebrities, but among who? Regular people, right? The Justin Bieber effect. And I still love the fact that he's Canadian, and yet he's like the quintessential example of the American dream. I love Canada. They got a maple leaf on their flag. The red on our flag represents blood. Anyway, and our national anthem is very violent. Canada's is like, it's old Canada, it talks about brotherhood, all that stuff. Anyway.
What's the red on that flag?
Huh? I don't know. It might mean blood. It's probably the blood that's going to be spilled when we try to make them into a colony or something. We tried to. During the Revolutionary War, the army invaded Canada. Anyway, our army. And then we got beat back by Canadians, which really, it's not a good idea. I mean, that's like getting beat up by a nerd in high school, you know. Canada beats you up, you need to go hide for a while. Anyway, a research scientist in the program for evolutionary dynamics and a fellow at Harvard's Department of Psychology and Berkman Center for Internet and Society. So you see this here. This is a study from the Internet. These people, some of these researchers do Internet and Society. They do psychology. This is a multidisciplinary study. That's one of the reasons why it's so effective. Hillran and colleagues found that a non-obese American adult has a 2% chance of becoming obese in any given year, a figure that has risen in recent decades. And this number rises by 0.4 percentage points with each obese social contact, meaning that 5 obese contact doubles the risk of becoming obese. So we can extrapolate that to narcissism. The more narcissistic people you're around, the more you like narcissistic celebrities, it says more that you'll pick up these traits. And I'll tell you right now, there is a lot to this element of mirroring effect with people that you're in immediate contact with, because I'm sure your parents have all told you this, that if you hang around people long enough, you start to do what? Yeah, start to talk like them, act like them. And it's not even, it's very subtle too. You don't even, sometimes you don't notice it. Right? That's why your parents, probably a lot of them, if you brought some goth-looking person who looked like they were on drugs, were like, get that person out of here kind of stuff. I doubt they were like, come on in, sit down. Want to stay over the night, huh? Hey, I got a 16-year-old daughter. Maybe you should date her. I don't think so. It's more like they're nice at first, and then they'll say to their son or daughter, don't ever bring that person over here again. And then it just makes you want to be around them even more. Anyway. By comparison, an obese adult has a 4% chance of losing enough weight to fall back to merely overweight. In any given year, this figure has remained essentially constant since 1971. By the way, obesity and overweightness are different. 75% of the American public is overweight. Only about 35% are obese. And obese is, usually, for men, it's more than 30% of your body mass is being fat, and for women, it's 50%. Women naturally have more higher percentage of body. They need it actually for your body to operate. Like if you're a woman and you have no body fat, it will mess up. It can make you infertile. It can be a serious problem. That's why they tell women not to take steroids. It's a very bad thing. Okay, you start to grow a mustache and all kinds of stuff like that. It's not. I'm telling you, it's not. Your voice drops. It's weird. Okay, have you ever seen these female? They used to show this stuff on ESPN all the time, and it was horrendous looking. You ever seen these female bodybuilders? The male bodybuilders are bad enough, but the women, it's like, these are not women. I don't know what this is. And the men, you look at them, it's like, they're muscles on top of muscles. It's like, my God, how do you even move? You know? I don't know how they lift a fork up to their face, you know? Like, so they're standing like this and stuff. It's like, my God. And I'm telling you, all those people are going to have health problems because they're taking steroids, you know? Anyway, like there will be baseball players that will be dropping dead at 50. There's no doubt about it. Like Mark McGwire is probably not going to make it. Anyway, these results suggest that social norms are changing the propensity for becoming obese by non-social mechanisms and also magnifying the effect that obese individuals have on their non-obese contacts. Hillran, Novak, and Christakis' works was funded by the National Institutes on Aging. You see Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So this was a pretty big research study, both interdisciplinary in nature and also very important. So what it suggests here is that that these theories are very similar, but they focus on different aspects. But we can work all of them together to understand what's really going on. And we'll get into the details of how this occurs. But since the first 4 chapters have basically been about celebrities, and one celebrity they have mentioned repeatedly, who all of you know, especially since some of you were kids when this young lady came up, and I saw her from the very beginning when she was on the Mickey Mouse Club. I don't know, maybe Drew's got a thing for her, for Britney. I don't know what his thing is with Britney. Maybe she just displays all of these characteristics just so well. As far as I know, though, and maybe we'll see here in a minute. I saw this biography, but it was a while ago. She was not abused as a child, though, was she? I don't think so. Now, it doesn't mean she didn't have a weird childhood. When you're in the Mickey Mouse Club, you know, she wasn't Justin Timberlake on there too. So you know, remember they had this relationship together and all this stuff. Though I think the weirder one was her sister, who got pregnant at what, 15 or 16 or something like that, right? And she was on a Disney show at one point, and then they took her off. And I haven't seen any more updates on her. I guess the press and the media just had it with that kind of stuff. Britney did have a high-profile fight with, I think, her father taking her money or something like that. So she's had a bit of a rough life, but maybe not like some other people that have been sexually abused. Tori Amos, for example, was raped at knife point at the age of 21 by some moron who gave her a ride home from the bar, which I hope that most women realize don't take rides home from the bar from strange guys, that look like they're on drugs. I mean, that's not a good policy to have personally. Anyway. So I'm going to show this Britney documentary. This is from the Biography Channel, and we'll look at what I want you to look at is what elements of her life drove her this way. Think also not only the psychological factors, but how the sociological factors, the culture was encouraging her to do this. Like, for example, when she kissed Madonna, don't you think that was driven by what the media wanted to see? And here's one of the things here. What's the cultural expectations of how you should behave when you're a celebrity? Because part of this is, that we might call this situationally acquired narcissism for celebrities, right? I doubt Britney was a narcissist when she was 6. Don't you think? Charlie Sheen, on the other hand, might have been. But what's the cultural expectations about how celebrities should behave nowadays? Or how they can get away, what they can get away with?
That they should do whatever they want.
Right, it's the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? That you should sleep with beautiful people. Hey, if you experiment with some dope, that's fine. Maybe become an alcoholic, drop some pills. I mean, do you think Heath Ledger was doing drugs because he thought it was a good idea, because that was part of his part of his persona? It almost seemed like maybe a little bit of both going on there. That this is just what celebrities do. Plus, celebrities have people telling them they're so great all the time and kissing their ass. They have people who make them look good even when they don't look good with like makeup and stuff like that. They usually have a lot of time to themselves and a lot of money. But they feel like they're trapped. Why do celebrities feel like they're trapped? What can't they do that normal people can do? Like Madonna can't do these things.
Go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
And normal stuff.
Yeah, or unless you want to start a riot. So what does Madonna get noted for? Kissing Britney Spears. Right? That they can do those types of things. And that drives it makes you into a legend. Like Janet Jackson. She's a legend. She was a legend before, but now she's the breast Super Bowl lady, right? That she had one of the most infamous moments in the history of television. And I love it. Justin Timberlake's one of them. Weren't they dating at the time or something like that? Something like that. So, which, by the way, she's like 20 years older than him. Or something like that. So, anyway. So let's watch this. I want you to pay attention to the aspects of culture here. What are some of the narcissistic behaviors she engaged in? And what impact did her behavior have on others around her, particularly her kids? So here we go. So this is from the Biography Channel. This was done in 2008. She's revived her career a little bit. She was touring with Nicki Minaj last year. And came to the Nassau Coliseum. I didn't go.
The next right teen idol.
Here we go.
17-year-old sex symbol. MTV video.
And ask yourself, was she exploited and abused by the media itself?